Commander Zethkar stood on the bridge of the flagship Times Dominion's Edge Asterisk, his forearms crossed behind his back as he gazed down at the blue marble that hung in the void before his fleet. Earth, such a small, insignificant world, yet it contained something his people desperately needed: the rare mineral deposits that could power their dying civilization for another 1,000 cycles. The hegemony had conquered 47 star systems without breaking stride. Each species they encountered had either surrendered immediately upon seeing their superior technology, or had been crushed within days of resistance. The humans would be no different. Zethkar had studied their pathetic military capabilities through long-range observations: primitive chemical propulsion, crude nuclear weapons that could barely crack a moon's surface, and laughably simple tactics that any first-year military academy student could counter. Sir, his tactical officer, Vex Thul, approached with data tablets in 2 of his hands. Final analysis of the human military structure is complete. They appear to have divided their forces among multiple nation-states, with no unified command structure. Their most advanced weapons appear to be fusion-based explosives with yields barely reaching 50 megatons. Their space presence is virtually non-existent. Zethkar's mandibles clicked in amusement. 50 megatons? Our personal sidearms generate more destructive force. And divided forces? He turned to face his bridge crew. This will be easier than the Krill homeworld, and they surrendered before we fired a single shot. The assault fleet consisted of 300 vessels, each one capable of reducing a continent to ash. The smallest destroyer in his fleet mounted weapons that could shatter asteroids. His flagship alone carried enough firepower to sterilize an entire planet's surface. Against the humans' primitive military, it would be like using a plasma cannon to hunt insects. Begin the operation, Zethkar commanded. Standard subjugation protocol. Target their major military installations first, then their seats of government. I want this concluded before the evening meal. The first wave descended through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars. Sleek, silver ships emerged from the clouds above major cities worldwide. In Washington, D.C., London, Moscow, Beijing, and dozens of other capitals, the alien vessels appeared without warning. Their shields shimmered with energy as they took positions above government buildings and military bases. At the Pentagon, General Sarah Chen watched the readouts with growing dread. The objects showed on radar as solid contacts. But no weapons on Earth could achieve that level of technological sophistication. Fighter jets scrambled from bases across the globe, but as they approached the alien ships, they simply stopped. Their engines died. Their electronics failed, and they dropped from the sky like stones. The pilots ejected safely, but the message was clear. Human technology was useless against these invaders. The first demonstration of alien power came at exactly 1,200 hours UTC. The ship above the Pentagon fired a single, thin beam of blue energy at the nearby Andrews Air Force Base. The beam lasted for exactly 3 seconds. When it ended, the entire base had been converted into a perfectly smooth, glass-lined crater, 2 kilometers across. Not a single structure remained. The heat had been so intense that sand and concrete had fused into a crystalline surface that reflected the sky like a mirror. Similar demonstrations occurred worldwide. Military bases simply vanished. Aircraft carriers were reduced to expanding clouds of superheated steam. Nuclear missile silos became perfect cylindrical holes that descended hundreds of meters into the earth. The message was unmistakable. Resistance was futile. Within 6 hours, every major military installation on Earth had been neutralized, not destroyed in the conventional sense, but rather erased so completely that it was as if they had never existed. The aliens had demonstrated their ability to eliminate any target with surgical precision, while leaving surrounding areas completely untouched. In Washington, D.C., the Pentagon crater sat next to undamaged suburban neighborhoods. Children played in parks mere kilometers from where one of the world's most secure facilities had existed that morning. President Alexandra Morrison sat in the White House Situation Room, surrounded by what remained of her military advisors. Most of the Joint Chiefs were dead, vaporized along with their headquarters. The few surviving officers had been in transit, or at secondary facilities when the attacks occurred. Options, she said simply, though everyone in the room knew there were none. Ma'am, Admiral Torres spoke up, one of the few senior officers still alive. Our submarine fleet is intact. Nuclear missile subs, attack boats, the whole underwater force. They haven't targeted anything beneath the ocean surface, because they don't consider them a threat, General Brooks added bitterly. He had lost his entire command structure at NORAD. These aren't military strikes in any conventional sense. They're demonstrations. They want us to know that resistance is hopeless. As if summoned by their conversation. The screens around the Situation Room flickered and displayed the same image. A tall, imposing figure with 4 arms and scaled skin. Zethkar had commandeered every television, radio, and internet connection on Earth simultaneously. Humans of Earth. His voice was translated by his ship's computers into every language on the planet. I am Commander Zethkar, of the Hegemony 4th Assault Fleet. Your world contains resources that my people require. You have witnessed our power. Your military is destroyed. Your resistance is impossible. He paused, letting his words sink in to the billions watching worldwide. However, the hegemony is not without mercy. Surrender unconditionally, and your species will be relocated to suitable reservation worlds, where you may live out your lives in peace. Refuse, and your entire planet will be cleansed of life. You have 72 hours to decide. The transmission ended, leaving Earth's leaders staring at blank screens. Reservation worlds. President Morrison repeated slowly. They want to turn us into pets. Reservation worlds. Reservation worlds. Reservation worlds. What Zethkar and his invasion force didn't know was that humans had been preparing for this day for decades. Not for alien invasion specifically, but for total warfare against a technologically superior enemy. Every government on Earth maintained contingency plans for fighting an enemy that could destroy conventional forces at will. The plans were born from the nightmares of nuclear warfare, where traditional military structures would be the first targets. In secret bunkers around the world, encrypted communications networks activated. These weren't military networks that the aliens could trace and destroy. They were civilian systems, disguised as everything from internet gaming servers to social media platforms to online shopping databases. The aliens had destroyed the obvious targets, but they had no idea that Earth's real command structure was hidden in plain sight among billions of seemingly innocent data streams. Dr. Emily Watson sat in a bunker beneath a seemingly ordinary farmhouse in rural Montana. To any observer, including alien scanners, she appeared to be a retired agricultural scientist. In reality, she was one of the planet's leading experts in asymmetric warfare and the coordinator for North America's resistance network. Phase 1 complete, she spoke into a microphone that connected her to similar bunkers on every continent. They've taken out the obvious targets exactly as predicted. Military leadership is scattered but intact. Civilian networks are uncompromised. From beneath a flower shop in Tokyo, Dr. Kenji Tanaka responded. Confirmed. Their targeting pattern suggests they rely on heat signatures and electromagnetic emissions to identify military assets. They appear to have no understanding of our distributed command structure. European sector reporting, came the voice of Dr. Marcus Weber from beneath a vineyard in France. All reserve forces are in position. The enemy has made their first mistake. They believe they've decapitated our military capability. The truth was that Earth's real military leadership had never been in those obvious targets. The generals and admirals who died in the first wave were important, but they were not irreplaceable. The real command structure consisted of thousands of mid-level officers, scientists, and strategists who had been quietly moved to hidden positions years ago. Every major government had learned from the vulnerabilities exposed during the Cold War. Never put all your leadership in obvious targets. As night fell on the first day of the invasion, Zethkar reviewed the reports from his fleet. The human governments were in chaos, their military command structure apparently destroyed, and their primitive weapons useless against his technology. It had gone exactly as planned. Sir, Vexthal reported, we're detecting scattered communications across the planet. but they appear to be civilian in nature. Social media, entertainment broadcasts, commercial data transfers. Nothing that suggests organized resistance. Excellent, Zethkar replied. Begin Phase 2. Land-ground forces at strategic locations. I want occupation troops in every major population center by tomorrow evening. The sooner we establish control, the sooner we can begin extraction operations. The first alien ground forces landed at dawn on the second day. Dropships descended on major cities worldwide, disgorging troops in powered armor that could shrug off small arms fire. They moved through empty streets, their weapons at ready, but encountered no resistance. Humans had seemingly vanished from their cities overnight. What the aliens didn't realize was that the empty streets were exactly what Earth's defenders had planned. Urban warfare was humanity's specialty. Learned through centuries of bitter experience, every major city had evacuation protocols that could move millions of people through subway tunnels, sewers, and underground passages that didn't appear on any map the aliens could access. Private Jackson Rodriguez crouched in a storm drain beneath downtown Los Angeles, watching through a fiber-optic periscope as alien troops marched through the streets above. His squad consisted of 12 soldiers, none of whom officially existed. They had been recruited from special forces units worldwide and trained for exactly this scenario. Fighting an enemy with overwhelming technological superiority. Count 12 hostiles moving north on 5th Street, he whispered into his throat microphone. Powered armor, energy weapons, standard patrol formation. Copy, Raven Squad, came the response from their handler. You are cleared for Pattern Delta. Remember, the objective is intelligence gathering, not engagement. Rodriguez smiled grimly. Pattern Delta was a surveillance protocol developed during the urban warfare campaigns of the early 21st century. The aliens might have superior technology, but they were walking through a maze that humans had been perfecting for generations. Every storm drain, every building, every street corner was known and mapped. Motion sensors, hidden cameras, and acoustic monitors tracked every move the invaders made. High above the city, Zethkar stood on an observation deck watching his troops take positions. Report, he commanded. Ground forces report minimal resistance, Vexthul replied. Scattered groups of civilians fled during our landing, but no organized military response. A few small arms attacks on our outer perimeter, but nothing our armor couldn't handle. And casualties? None among our forces. Human weapons appear to be even more primitive than our intelligence suggested. Zethkar nodded with satisfaction. The conquest was proceeding ahead of schedule. In another day, maybe 2 at most, he would have complete control of the planet. The humans were responding exactly as every other species had, with panic, chaos, and eventual submission. But as the sun set on the second day of the invasion, something changed. The scattered, ineffective resistance began to show signs of coordination. Small groups of humans started appearing in unexpected places, striking at alien patrols with weapons that, while still primitive, were being used with disturbing precision. The first real surprise came when an alien patrol in downtown Chicago simply vanished. One moment, 12 soldiers were reporting normal reconnaissance through the financial district. The next moment, their communications went dead. When reinforcements arrived, they found only scorch marks and torn armor scattered across 3 city blocks. Sir, Vexthul's voice carried a note of concern. We're receiving reports of similar incidents from 7 different urban areas. Patrol units are going missing, or being found dead with no survivors to report on what attacked them. Zethkar frowned. Equipment malfunctions? Unknown. The wreckage suggests weapons fire. But no human technology should be capable of penetrating our armor. High. Double the patrol strength. Whatever's happening, it's probably isolated groups of humans with lucky shots. Our troops will adapt. But the attacks weren't random or lucky. In the tunnels beneath Chicago, Sergeant Major David Kim examined the alien weapons his squad had captured. The aliens had made another crucial mistake. They assumed that because human technology was primitive, humans themselves were primitive. Beautiful design, he murmured. running his hands over the sleek energy rifle. Quantum containment field. Particle acceleration chamber. Targeting computer integrated into the firing mechanism. He looked up at his team of engineers and scientists. How long to reverse engineer? Dr. Sarah Park, a physicist who officially worked for a telecommunications company, smiled. The principles are actually quite simple once you understand the quantum mechanics involved. We could have functional copies within 48 hours. Better copies within a week. Do it, Kim ordered. And I want to know everything about their armor systems. Power source, vulnerable points, override frequencies. This was humanity's greatest strength, and the aliens' greatest miscalculation. Humans didn't just fight wars. They studied their enemies and adapted. Every piece of alien technology that fell into human hands was immediately analyzed, reverse-engineered, and improved upon. Earth's scientists had learned to work miracles with primitive equipment, and now they had access to technology centuries ahead of their own. As reports of missing patrols increased, Zethkar began to feel the first stirrings of unease. The humans were supposed to be broken, defeated, ready to surrender. Instead, they seemed to be getting more organized and more effective with each passing hour. Sir, Vexthal approached with a new report. Intelligence suggests the humans may have some kind of underground communication network. Our monitoring stations are detecting encrypted data streams that we can't decode. Crack them, Zethkar ordered. We've tried, sir. The encryption appears to be quantum-based, but using principles we don't recognize. It's almost as if they've developed their cryptographic systems specifically to be resistant to our technology. Zethkar felt a chill run down his spine. That's impossible. Our intelligence clearly showed they had no knowledge of quantum cryptography. Yes, sir, but the evidence suggests otherwise. For the first time since arriving at Earth, Zethkar began to wonder if his invasion force had made an error in their assessment. But it was too late to reconsider now. He had committed his fleet to the conquest of this world, and the hegemony did not tolerate failure. Whatever tricks the humans were using, they would be crushed through superior firepower. Prepare for Phase 3, he commanded. If the humans want to hide in their holes and play at resistance, we'll dig them out. Begin bombardment of all major population centers. I want every building above ground reduced to rubble. The order went out across the fleet, and massive guns began to charge for a bombardment that would level every city on Earth. But as the weapons powered up, something unexpected happened. The human resistance, which had been limited to small-scale attacks on ground patrols, suddenly escalated dramatically. The first sign that something had changed came when the alien ship above New York City shuddered from an impact that registered on its hull sensors. Then another impact, then a dozen more, each one stronger than the last. Report, Zethkar demanded as his own flagship began to shake from similar impacts. Sir, we're under attack from the surface. Energy weapons of unknown origin are targeting the fleet. Impossible. Human technology cannot reach our altitude, and certainly cannot penetrate our shields. But even as he spoke, the shield indicators on his command console were fluctuating. Whatever was hitting his ships was not the primitive human technology they had observed. This was something new, something deadly, and something that suggested the humans had been holding back during the initial invasion. As his fleet came under increasing fire from the surface, Zethkar realized that his easy conquest was about to become something far more complicated. The humans had allowed him to land, allowed him to think he was winning, and now they were revealing capabilities that his intelligence had never detected. He was beginning to understand that the humans had not been defeated in those first 2 days. They had been learning, adapting, and preparing for the real war to begin. And as his flagship's shields failed and warning alarms began to sound throughout the bridge, Zethkar experienced something no hegemony commander had felt in over a century: the fear that he might have chosen the wrong enemy to fight. The energy beams that struck the hegemony fleet were not the product of primitive human technology. They were the result of something far more dangerous: human ingenuity applied to alien technology. In the 72 hours since the invasion began, Earth's hidden network of scientists and engineers had accomplished what the aliens thought was impossible. They had not just reverse-engineered alien weapons. They had improved them. Dr. Marcus Chen stood in a converted subway station beneath Manhattan, watching as his team made final adjustments to their latest creation. What had once been a train platform now housed a massive energy cannon, built from salvaged alien components and powered by a fusion reactor that officially didn't exist. Targeting solution confirmed, reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim, formerly a fire control officer on the USS Missouri, alien flagship bearing 270, elevation 45 degrees, range 12 kilometers. Weapon charged and ready, added Dr. Rodriguez, a former Los Alamos physicist who now spent his days converting alien energy cells into something far more destructive than their creators had intended. Fire, Chen commanded. The beam that erupted from the hidden cannon was not the thin blue line that alien weapons produced. It was a thick torrent of controlled plasma that punched through the alien flagship's shields like they were made of paper. The ship's hull, designed to withstand asteroid impacts and the vacuum of space, cracked and began to vent atmosphere. Across the globe, similar scenes played out in dozens of locations. What the aliens had mistaken for primitive human cities were actually disguised weapons platforms, built and hidden over decades of preparation. Every major urban center contained networks of tunnels, bunkers, and hidden facilities that could be converted to military use within hours. Commander Zethkar gripped his command chair as his flagship shook under the relentless bombardment. "Damage report," he shouted over the emergency alarms. "Hull breach on decks 7 through 12, reported his engineering officer. "Shield generators are failing across the fleet." "Sir, these weapons appear to be based on our own technology, but they're operating at energy levels that shouldn't be possible." "How are they powering them?" Zethkar demanded. "Human power generation is barely capable of lighting their cities." His tactical officer, Vex Thul, looked up from his instruments with an expression of dawning horror. "Sir, we're detecting fusion signatures from beneath every major population center. The humans appear to have hidden nuclear reactors under their cities." "That's insane," Zethkar snapped. "No civilized species would put nuclear reactors in populated areas. The radiation risk alone, the reactors appear to be heavily shielded," Vex Thul continued. "And sir, they're not producing radiation signatures consistent with primitive human fission technology. These appear to be clean fusion reactors, more advanced than anything in our intelligence reports." The truth was even more disturbing than Vex Thul realized. The fusion reactors powering the human weapons were not hidden relics of some secret military program. They were commercial power plants that had been disguised as conventional facilities for decades. Humanity had possessed clean fusion technology for over 30 years, but had deliberately concealed it behind facades of coal plants, solar farms, and wind turbines. The deception had been planned by a secret international organization known simply as the Preparation. Formed in the aftermath of the first radio signals that suggested intelligent life elsewhere in the galaxy, the Preparation had operated on a simple premise. Someday, Earth would be contacted by a technologically superior civilization. And that contact might not be peaceful. General Patricia Hayes stood in the primary command bunker, located 3 kilometers beneath what appeared to be a small farming town in Kansas. Around her, displays showed the status of defensive operations across the planet. The alien fleet was taking damage, but they were also adapting their tactics. "Sir," reported Colonel Martinez, "alien ground forces are beginning to withdraw from major population centers. They appear to be regrouping for a different type of assault." "What type?" Hayes asked. "Unknown, but they're pulling back to positions outside the range of our urban weapons platforms." Hayes nodded. This was exactly what the Preparation had anticipated. The aliens would initially be surprised by humanity's hidden capabilities, but they would quickly adapt. That's when the real test would begin. "Initiate Protocol 7, she commanded. "It's time to show them what humans do when they're truly angry." Plater. Protocol 7 was the activation of humanity's hidden mobile forces. While the aliens had been focused on the cities, thousands of concealed military units had been moving into position across the globe. These weren't conventional armies that the aliens could easily detect and destroy. They were small, highly mobile teams, equipped with the most advanced human technology available. Captain Jake Morrison crouched in a forest in Germany, watching an alien dropship land in a clearing 2 kilometers away. His squad of 8 soldiers carried weapons that looked like standard human military equipment, but had been enhanced with alien technology captured during the first days of the invasion. "Contact," he whispered into his communication device. "Large transport, landing at grid reference 77 Alpha. Deploying ground forces. Count approximately 50 hostiles in powered armor. Copy." "Wolfpack 6. Came the response from command. "You are authorized for full engagement. Remember, the objective is to make them afraid to leave their ships." Morrison smiled grimly. Making enemies afraid was something humans excelled at. The attack began with what appeared to be a simple ambush. Morrison's team opened fire from concealed positions, using modified human rifles that fired armor-piercing rounds enhanced with alien energy technology. The alien troops responded predictably, forming defensive positions and returning fire with their superior weapons. But this was not the real attack. While the aliens focused on the obvious threat, they failed to notice the teams of human engineers who had been silently approaching their landed transport ship. Using technology reverse-engineered from captured alien equipment, they began to hack into the ship's computer systems. The first sign that something was wrong came when the transport ship's weapons suddenly turned and began firing on the alien troops outside. The confused soldiers tried to return to their ship, only to find that the boarding ramp had sealed shut and the ship was beginning to lift off without them. "What's happening?" the alien squad leader demanded over his communicator. "Unknown," came the panicked response from the ship. "Our systems appear to have been compromised. We're initiating emergency departure." The transport ship rose into the air, still firing on the abandoned troops below. It climbed steadily for 30 seconds before its hijacked navigation system directed it straight into a mountainside at maximum velocity. Morrison watched the explosion with satisfaction. "Wolfpack 6 to command. Target destroyed. Enemy ground forces stranded and eliminated." Similar scenes were playing out across the globe. Human teams were not just fighting the aliens, they were turning alien technology against itself. Computer viruses designed by Earth's best programmers were spreading through alien networks. Captured alien weapons were being reverse-engineered and improved. Most importantly, humans were doing what they had always done best. They were learning from their enemies and adapting faster than their enemies could adapt to them. In his command center beneath Kansas, General Hayes monitored the global situation. The alien fleet was in disarray. Their ground forces were being systematically eliminated, and their technological advantage was eroding with each passing hour. "Status report," she requested. "Global defensive operations proceeding ahead of schedule," reported Colonel Martinez. "Enemy fleet has lost 12 ships, with 7 more heavily damaged. Ground forces are down by approximately 60%. Most importantly, we've captured enough alien technology to begin mass production of enhanced weapons." "And civilian casualties?" "Minimal. Evacuation protocols were 97% effective. Most civilians are safely in underground shelters or remote areas." Hayes nodded with satisfaction. The preparation had worked exactly as designed. Humanity had allowed the aliens to think they were winning while secretly maneuvering them into a trap. Now the real war was beginning, and it was being fought on humanity's terms. Commander Zethkar stood on the bridge of his damaged flagship, trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong so quickly. His invasion force, which had conquered 47 worlds without significant losses, was being systematically destroyed by a species he had considered primitive. "Sir," Vexthul reported, "we're receiving communication requests from the human leadership. Over the form." "Where?" "Put them through," Zethkar commanded. Perhaps the humans were ready to negotiate a surrender. The screen flickered to life, showing the face of an elderly human woman in what appeared to be a military uniform. General Hayes looked directly at Zethkar with steady, unafraid eyes. "Commander Zethkar," she said calmly. "I am General Patricia Hayes, Supreme Commander of Earth Defense Forces. I believe we need to discuss the current situation." "You wish to surrender?" Zethkar asked, though he was no longer sure he was in a position to accept a surrender. Hayes smiled. and Zethkar found the expression deeply unsettling. Actually, I was calling to offer you the opportunity to surrender. Your fleet is damaged, your ground forces are stranded or dead, and your technological advantage has been completely negated. This would be an appropriate time to discuss terms. Impossible, Zethkar sputtered. The hegemony does not surrender to primitive species. Primitive? Hayes repeated. Commander, I think you may have some fundamental misunderstandings about my species. Would you like me to clarify them for you? Before Zethkar could respond, his tactical displays lit up with new contacts. Hundreds of them, rising from concealed positions across the planet's surface. Ships, human ships that had been hidden so effectively that his sensors had never detected them. What you're seeing, Hayes explained as she watched Zethkar's face change expression, are humanity's actual space forces. The primitive chemical rockets you observed were civilian research vehicles. Our real ships use fusion drives that we developed 40 years ago. The human ships rising from concealed bases around the globe were not the crude vessels that Zethkar's intelligence had described. They were sleek, advanced craft that moved with precision and grace. More importantly, they were armed with weapons that combined human engineering principles with alien technology that had been captured and improved upon during the invasion. You see, Commander, Hayes continued, humanity learned long ago that when facing a superior enemy, the best strategy is to appear weak while you prepare your real defenses. We've been watching your people for over a decade, studying your technology through long-range observations and preparing for this exact scenario. Impossible, Zethkar repeated, but his voice lacked conviction. We knew you would target our obvious military installations first, so we made sure those installations contained nothing of real value. We knew you would assume our primitive technology represented our actual capabilities, so we hid our real technology behind facades of obsolete equipment. Most importantly, we knew you would underestimate us because every other species you've conquered has been weaker than you. Hayes leaned forward in her chair, her expression hardening. But here's what you failed to understand about humans, Commander. We don't just fight wars. We perfect warfare itself. Every conflict in our history has taught us new ways to kill our enemies and protect ourselves. We've spent 10,000 years learning how to fight, and we've gotten very, very good at it. As if to emphasize her point, the human ships that had surrounded his fleet opened fire. But these were not the crude energy beams that Zethkar's ships used. These were weapons that combined alien energy technology with human innovation, creating focused bursts of destruction that could punch through alien shields and armor with terrifying efficiency. Zethkar watched in horror as 3 more of his ships exploded under the human assault. This is not possible, he whispered. No species has ever adapted this quickly to our technology. Most species probably try to copy your technology exactly, Hayes observed. Humans improve on everything they touch. We took your energy weapons and made them more powerful. We studied your shields and found their weaknesses. We analyzed your ship designs and built better ones. The truth was even more impressive than Hayes was willing to admit. In the 72 hours since the invasion began, human scientists and engineers working in hidden facilities around the globe had not just reverse-engineered alien technology, they had fundamentally improved upon it by applying human engineering principles that the aliens had never considered. Where alien technology prioritized efficiency and standardization, human technology embraced chaos and adaptation. Human weapons were designed to be modified, upgraded, and customized for specific situations. Human ships were built to be repaired with whatever materials were available. Most importantly, human military doctrine was based on the assumption that the enemy would always have superior technology. So humans had learned to win through superior tactics, superior adaptation, and superior willingness to take risks. Commander, Hayes said, your fleet is surrounded. Your ground forces are eliminated, and your technological advantage no longer exists. I'm prepared to discuss terms for your surrender and safe departure from our system. Zethkar looked around his bridge at his officers, all of whom were staring at their instruments with expressions of shock and disbelief. The mighty Fourth Assault Fleet of the hegemony, conqueror of nearly 50 worlds, was being offered mercy by the species they had planned to enslave. What are your terms? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Simple, Hayes replied. You and your surviving ships leave our system immediately and never return. In exchange, we won't destroy the rest of your fleet or follow you home to demonstrate our new weapons to your superiors. And if we refuse? Hayes' smile returned, but this time, it was genuinely terrifying. Then you'll discover what human weapons can do when we stop holding back. As if summoned by her words, new contacts appeared on Zethkar's displays. Massive objects were rising from the far side of the moon, where they had been hidden from alien observation. These were not ships in any conventional sense. They were mobile weapons platforms the size of small asteroids, bristling with armaments that combined human and alien technology in ways that his engineers had never imagined possible. Those are our moon bases, Commander. We built them over the past 40 years specifically to deal with visitors like you. Each one carries enough firepower to sterilize a planet. We have 12 of them. Zethkar felt his legs give out beneath him as he collapsed into his command chair. The humans had not just prepared for invasion. They had prepared for war on a galactic scale. Everything his species believed about primitive worlds and easy conquests had been shattered by a species that had turned deception and adaptation into art forms. I accept your terms, he said finally, the words tasting like poison in his mouth. Excellent, Hayes replied. You have 6 hours to collect any surviving personnel and depart our system. Any ships that remain after that time will be destroyed without further warning. The transmission ended, leaving Zethkar alone with the wreckage of his invasion force and the devastating realization that his species had gravely underestimated the humans. But as he began to issue orders for the fleet's retreat, he had no idea that the worst was yet to come. The humans were not content with simply repelling an invasion. They were about to demonstrate that attacking Earth had consequences that would echo across the galaxy. Commander Zethkar's retreat from Earth was not the end of the story. It was barely the beginning. As the surviving ships of the Fourth Assault Fleet limped away from Earth's solar system, their damaged hulls trailing superheated plasma and debris, they carried with them something far more dangerous than their original weapons. Human technology. Not because they had stolen it, but because the humans had deliberately given it to them. Dr. Emily Watson stood in the command center beneath Montana, watching the alien fleet's departure on long-range sensors. Tracking confirms all alien vessels have cleared the heliopause, she reported to General Hayes via quantum-encrypted communication. Phase 4 is ready to commence. Understood, Hayes replied from her own bunker. Initiate Operation Pandora. Operation Pandora was the reason why General Hayes had been so willing to let the alien fleet retreat instead of destroying them outright. Humanity had learned from studying the aliens' own tactics during their initial invasion. Just as the aliens had allowed humanity to think they were winning before revealing their true power, humans had allowed the aliens to think they were escaping, when in reality, they were carrying something far more insidious back to their own civilization. Every piece of alien technology that humans had captured during the conflict had been deliberately allowed to fall into human hands. Every alien computer system that humans had hacked had been designed to accept their intrusion. Every weapon, communication device, and data storage unit that the retreating aliens carried with them had been subtly modified by human engineers. The modifications were not obvious. In fact, they were so subtle that even advanced alien security scans would classify them as normal wear and tear from combat operations. But embedded within the quantum structure of every alien device were what human programmers called logic viruses. Self-replicating code that would spread throughout any network it encountered. Captain Sarah Chen, formerly of the USS Enterprise before it was destroyed in the opening hours of the invasion, now commanded the UES Retribution, one of humanity's new interstellar vessels. Built using improved alien technology and human engineering principles, it was capable of speeds that made the alien fleet look like it was standing still. Target acquired, reported her navigation officer. Alien fleet, bearing 17 Mark 4. Range 47 light-years and increasing. Maintain pursuit distance. Chen ordered. Long-range sensors only. I want to know where they're going. But they must not know we're following them. The human pursuit fleet consisted of 12 ships, each one a masterwork of reverse-engineered alien technology, enhanced with human innovation. They were fast, stealthy, and armed with weapons that could reduce alien vessels to cosmic dust in seconds. More importantly, they carried something that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Aboard the alien flagship, what remained of Zethkar's crew was struggling to understand what had happened to them. Chief Engineer Voxran worked frantically to repair the damage from the human weapons, but every system he examined revealed new problems. Sir, he reported to Zethkar, the damage is more extensive than initial scans indicated. Our quantum computers are showing irregular behavior patterns. Communication systems are experiencing random failures. Even our navigation computers are producing inconsistent results. Battle damage, Zethkar replied wearily. We'll have full repairs completed once we reach base, but Voxran's expression remained troubled. Sir, these aren't normal damage patterns. Some of our systems are performing better than original specifications, while others are degrading rapidly. It's almost as if our technology is evolving. He was more right than he realized. The logic viruses that humans had embedded in alien technology were not designed to destroy it immediately. Instead, they were designed to study it, understand it, and slowly modify it to serve human purposes. Every alien computer system was slowly being converted into a remote observation post for human intelligence agencies. 3 days later, the alien fleet arrived at Hegemony Base Omega-7, a massive military station orbiting a dead world near the galactic core. The base was home to over 2 million Hegemony personnel and served as the primary staging area for conquest operations in this sector of the galaxy. As Zethkar's ships docked with the station, the logic viruses began the next phase of their operation. They spread through the station's computer networks like wildfire, invisible to alien detection systems but perfectly visible to their human creators. On Earth, in the command center that officially didn't exist, Dr. Marcus Weber monitored the virus spread through quantum communication links that operated faster than light itself. Infiltration successful, he reported to the assembled leadership. We now have complete access to their primary military database. What are we looking at? Asked General Hayes. Everything, Weber replied, with barely concealed excitement. Ship designs, weapon specifications, military protocols, star maps, communication frequencies, and most importantly, the locations of every Hegemony military installation within 50,000 light-years. The information flowing back to Earth was beyond valuable. It was a complete blueprint for the destruction of an interstellar empire. But humans were not content with simple intelligence gathering. They had much bigger plans. Begin Phase 5, Hayes ordered. Show them what happens when you threaten Earth. Phase 5 was the activation of humanity's true space fleet. While the aliens had been retreating to their base, thinking they had escaped Earth's primitive defenders, humans had been preparing something that would redefine warfare on a galactic scale. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, massive doors opened in the seabed, revealing construction facilities that had been hidden for over 50 years. What emerged from those facilities was not ships in any conventional sense, but rather mobile military platforms that dwarfed anything the aliens had ever constructed. The largest of these vessels, designated UES Nemesis, was 30 kilometers long and housed a crew of 50,000. It was not built for exploration or colonization. It was built for one purpose: the complete annihilation of any force that dared threaten humanity's homeworld. Admiral Marcus Webb, formerly commander of the Pacific Fleet before the aliens destroyed it, now stood on the bridge of the Nemesis as it accelerated toward the galactic core. Around him, displays showed the locations of 17 major Hegemony military installations, all of which would be targets in humanity's first interstellar war. Admiral, reported his tactical officer, all systems are functioning within normal parameters. Quantum drives operating at 112% efficiency. Weapons systems show ready status across all platforms. Time to target? 18 hours at current velocity, sir. Webb nodded grimly. In less than a day, the Hegemony would learn that attacking Earth carried consequences they had never imagined. At Hegemony Base Omega-7, the logic viruses had completed their primary infiltration. Every computer system on the station was now under human control, though the alien personnel remained completely unaware of this fact. Their sensors showed normal operations, their communications functioned perfectly, and their defensive systems appeared to be operating at peak efficiency. In reality, every defensive system on the base had been quietly disabled. Weapon-targeting computers had been reprogrammed to fire at their own ships. Communication systems had been modified to jam outgoing distress signals. Most critically, the base's early warning sensors had been altered to show empty space, where a massive human battle fleet was actually approaching at near light speed. Zethkar sat in his quarters, staring out at the stars and trying to comprehend the magnitude of his failure. In a few hours, he would be required to report to Hegemony Command and explain how the mighty Fourth Assault Fleet had been defeated by a primitive species that shouldn't have posed any threat. His brooding was interrupted by the sound of emergency alarms echoing through the station. "All hands to battle stations," came the announcement over the station's communication system. Unknown vessels approaching at high velocity. Zethkar rushed to the nearest command center, where he found chaos. Alien officers were running between control stations, shouting orders and reports in a cacophony of panic. "Report," Zethkar demanded. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy signatures approaching from the direction of the human home system," replied the duty officer. "At least 12 vessels, each one larger than our heaviest battleships. How did they get past our early warning sensors?" "Unknown, sir. The sensors showed clear space until 30 seconds ago." Zethkar felt a cold dread settle in his stomach. "Time to contact?" 17 minutes, sir. Send immediate distress signals to all hegemony forces in the sector. Request immediate reinforcement." "Well, sir, our communication arrays appear to be malfunctioning. All outgoing signals are being reflected back by our own transmitters. Then prepare for battle. All ships to combat readiness. Activate all defensive systems." But as Zethkar watched his officers desperately trying to prepare the base's defenses, he began to notice disturbing anomalies. Weapon systems that reported ready status showed error codes when examined closely. Ships that acknowledged combat orders were maneuvering in random patterns instead of defensive formations. Most disturbing of all, the base's massive shield generators were drawing power, but not actually producing protective fields. "Sir," reported the weapons officer. "Defensive batteries report targeting lock on incoming hostiles. But the targeting computers are not responding to fire commands." Zethkar suddenly understood what was happening. "The humans," he whispered. "They're already inside our systems." He was right. Every critical system on the base had been compromised during the 3 days since his fleet's arrival. The humans had not just defeated his invasion force, they had turned his own technology against him. Worse, they had done it so subtly that even now, with human warships bearing down on the station, most of his personnel didn't understand that their defeat was already certain. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel just outside the base's defensive perimeter, their massive forms blotting out entire starfields. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, their hulls gleaming with energy fields that bent light around them like liquid mercury. Admiral Webb stood on the bridge of the Nemesis, watching the alien base through sensors that could detect individual life signs from light years away. Target confirmed. Hegemony Base Omega-7. Population approximately 2.1 million. Defensive status completely compromised. "Admiral," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving multiple hail attempts from the alien base. Put them through." The main screen flickered to life, showing Commander Zethkar's face. The alien commander looked haggard and defeated, nothing like the confident conqueror who had appeared on Earth's screens just days ago. "Human vessels," Zethkar began, his voice barely controlled. "This is Hegemony Base Omega-7. You are in violation of interstellar law by entering our territory. Withdraw immediately, or face the consequences." Webb studied the alien commander for a moment before responding. "Commander Zethkar, I am Admiral Marcus Webb of the United Earth Space Forces. You are in no position to make threats or demands. We are a military installation of the hegemony, Zethkar protested. Our defenses are more than adequate to repel any attack. Are they? Webb asked calmly. Computer? Display current status of all defensive systems at the target installation. The screen split, showing detailed readouts of every weapon, shield, and defensive system on the alien base. Every single system showed the same status. Offline and unresponsive. Zethkar stared at the display in horror. Impossible, he breathed. Our systems show full operational status. Your systems are showing you what we want them to show you, Webb explained. Every computer on your base has been under our control since your ships docked 3 days ago. Your weapons cannot fire. Your shields cannot activate. Your communication arrays cannot send distress signals. You are completely defenseless. The truth of Webb's words became apparent as Zethkar frantically tried to activate emergency protocols, only to find that none of his commands were being executed by the base's computers. What do you want? Zethkar asked, his voice hollow with defeat. Justice. Webb replied. You came to our world intending to enslave or exterminate our species. You destroyed our cities and killed our people. Did you really think there would be no consequences for your actions? We were following hegemony law, Zethkar protested. Primitive species have no rights under galactic convention. Primitive? Webb laughed, and the sound was genuinely frightening. Commander, let me explain something about humans. We've been fighting wars since before we could speak. We've perfected the art of killing our enemies and breaking their will to fight. What you call primitive, we call experienced. Webb paused, letting his words sink in. Your hegemony has conquered 47 star systems by bullying species that were weaker than you. You've never faced an enemy that could fight back effectively. Well, congratulations. You've just found one. The human fleet opened fire, but not with the devastating weapons that could have reduced the alien base to atoms in seconds. Instead, they used precisely targeted beams that systematically disabled every alien ship in the system without killing their crews. It was a demonstration of power that was somehow more terrifying than simple destruction. Your ships are disabled but intact, Webb explained as the alien vessels went dark one by one. Your personnel are alive but helpless. You're going to return to your hegemony and deliver a message for us. What message? Zethkar whispered. Earth is no longer hiding. Humanity is no longer pretending to be primitive. Any hegemony force that enters human space will be destroyed without warning. Any hegemony installation that supports aggression against human interests will be eliminated. Any hegemony official who threatens human lives will be removed from power. Webb leaned forward in his command chair, his expression deadly serious. But here's the important part, Commander. We're not content with just defending ourselves. Your hegemony has enslaved dozens of species and destroyed countless civilizations. We're going to liberate every world you've conquered and free every species you've enslaved. You started a war with the wrong enemy, and now you're going to lose everything. As if to demonstrate the truth of his words, the displays around Zethkar began showing feeds from across hegemony space. Human fleets were appearing at military installations throughout the sector, systematically dismantling the infrastructure of an interstellar empire. Advanced human weapons reduced alien warships to scrap metal, while liberation forces freed enslaved populations. The humans were not just defending their own world, they were waging a war of liberation across the galaxy, and they were winning it with overwhelming force and technological superiority that made the hegemony's former victims look like children playing with toys. This is impossible, Zethkar stammered. You cannot have built such a fleet in the few days since our invasion. We didn't, Webb replied. We've been building this fleet for over 50 years, ever since we detected the first signs of your hegemony. We've been watching you, learning about you, and preparing for the day when you would inevitably threaten our world. You just gave us the excuse we needed to act. The final blow came when Webb activated a holographic display showing the complete strategic situation across hegemony space. Red markers indicated destroyed or captured alien installations. Blue markers showed human forces in complete control of former hegemony territory. Green markers represented liberated worlds where freed populations were already requesting human protection and alliance. In less than 6 hours, An interstellar empire that had dominated this sector of the galaxy for over 1,000 years had been completely dismantled by a species they had considered primitive. "Your hegemony is finished," Webb announced. "Your military is scattered, your installations are destroyed, and your enslaved populations are free. You have a choice now. Retreat to your core worlds and live in peace, or continue fighting and be eliminated entirely." Zethkar looked around the command center at his officers, all of whom were staring at their useless instruments with expressions of shock and disbelief. The mighty hegemony, conqueror of worlds and enslaver of species, had been brought to its knees by a single planet that had hidden its true nature behind facades of primitive technology. "We accept your terms," Zethkar said finally. "Good," Webb replied. "You'll be given one ship and enough supplies to reach your nearest remaining territory. Use that time to think about what happens when you underestimate humans." As the human fleet began to withdraw, leaving the crippled alien base behind, Zethkar finally understood the magnitude of the mistake his species had made. They had not just attacked the wrong planet. They had revealed themselves to a species that was everything the hegemony claimed to be, but better at it. Humans were not primitive. They were patient. They were not weak. They were prepared. Most importantly, they were not content with simple survival. When pushed to war, humans did not just fight to win. They fought to ensure that their enemies could never threaten anyone ever again. The Fourth Assault Fleet had come to Earth expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant that would reshape the galaxy forever. And as Zethkar began the long journey back to what remained of his civilization, he carried with him the knowledge that challenging human warfare had been the gravest mistake in hegemony history. Behind them, human ships spread across the galaxy, bringing freedom to enslaved worlds and ensuring that no species would ever again face the choice between submission and extinction. The age of the hegemony was over. The age of human protection for all peaceful species had begun. And it had all started because a few aliens had made the grave mistake of thinking that humans were primitive, weak, and easy to conquer. They had learned, far too late, that the most dangerous enemy is the one you underestimate.